All right, there we go. I apologize for the brightness here. I'm up in the bridge of my boat, and it's very bright out here in Newport. So it's I had to put my shades on. Also, because the future is so bright, you got to wear shades, right? So anyway, welcome to everyone that's new to the Internet Dominators community, the ACT program, all the stuff that we do. It's all really focused on getting new customers, growing your business, getting your messaging right, and eliminating the sales process. I know most of you guys are, hopefully most of you are like me and you don't like sales, but you like money, and money comes from sales. So the idea with marketing is to create spectacular marketing that does the sales for you, so you don't have to. And it's really cool if you get the process right. Like, I learned this from the ad agencies, and they really know how to do this. They really know how to generate demand and desire of products and services. And that's what I teach you guys in the ACT program, is how to do that. The exact process that they've been using for over 100 years. And it works, and literally works every time. The A in ACT is probably the most important component. And for you guys that are new, and this is like your first real exposure to this, to the ACT method, to me, and all of that, I would really encourage you to go back and watch the first video that we did with this group. We opened this group up to Alignable. I've been teaching stuff for over 10 years to a very small group of people that have been with me forever. And we got the opportunity, or I got the opportunity rather, to open this program up to the Alignable, everyone on Alignable, which I think is awesome, because I just want to help as many small business owners as I can. And this information is the most powerful thing that I could give you. It's really like, it's a skill set that once you learn it, you're going to own it for a lifetime. And it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how the world changes, the economy changes, business changes, this process is going to work, and it's going to carry you through for the rest of your life. It's the most valuable skill set you're ever going to learn. And it's all about communication. It's all about communicating the value of what you have to offer to someone that needs it. And if you can communicate that value, you will make sales without selling. It's really cool. I know in a lot of the presentations that I did, I've been in a lot of businesses throughout my life. And one of the things that I learned is people don't really care about what you've got. All they care about is what it's going to do for them. Like, I sold SEO services for a long time, and nobody really wants SEO. SEO is search engine optimization. What they want is, they want the outcome of it. They want the traffic, or they think they want the traffic, but what they really want is, they want sales. They want customers. They want to grow their business. So when you talk to them about SEO, they don't know what it is. They don't know how it works. It bores them. They don't care. So it's a really hard sale. It's hard to sell somebody on something they don't want. So figuring out what they want and talking about that, and then you equate what you have to that outcome, then all of a sudden they want to buy it. They still don't care what it is. They just want the outcome of it. So if you're going on and talking about something that your potential customers don't care about, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And if you're creating marketing materials and websites, and the C is the creation part of ACT, if you're doing that before you've really figured out what that messaging should be, you're spinning your wheels again. You're wasting time. And worst of all, you're burning opportunities. every person you have a chance to communicate with is an opportunity for you to turn them into a customer. And if you are sending that message out to the right people, that is a golden opportunity. So you've got a few things at play here. You've got the analysis represents your market. It's who you're selling to. The creation piece represents your messaging and what it is that you're delivering. Creation actually includes creation of products. I cannot tell you how many things that I have made for my audience because they told me they wanted it. Like after I had them as a customer, they told me what they needed next. It gave me the opportunity to create that for them. And in a lot of cases, it's digital products. Like this ACT is a perfect example of that. Because before I had ACT, it was called SEO Dominators. And at that time, everybody was interested in how to do SEO. These were marketers online, and they were trying to get me to teach them my secrets of how I did this for big companies. So I created that for them because they were asking me for it. So I created that, and then it's kind of morphed over the years. I've been doing that since about 2010. And it's morphed over the years. About 6 years ago, I taught a course. I did it once a year. It was called SEO Reboot. So people came to learn the new SEO. And I said, let's just throw everything out the window. Let's forget what we think we know about it. And let's just reboot the system. And I did it once a year. And I guess it was about 7 years ago, I had a big pie chart up on the screen. And I said, here's the new SEO. And it was broken into 3 pieces. And it was R, C, T. And I said, this is what SEO is all about. And it came out it was marketing. It wound up being the ACT program. I changed the R. R was originally research. And I changed it because RCT doesn't really sound too exciting, but ACT does. It's an action word. So I thought, what could I change that R to? And it came to me, it's analysis. So again, it's all part of the creation process. But it was what they wanted. They wanted to know what changed about SEO. And in the process, I realized it's no longer really SEO. It's about communication. It's about content. The search engines had changed from algorithms that looked at like links and content, and then they started looking at human behavior. They started looking at how people interact to know who's to send people to. So that was really kind of a big eye opener for a lot of people, and it was a bigger eye opener for me because I realized, hey, most small businesses don't really need traffic. They need to figure out how to convert it, and that's in the marketing. So that's kind of how this all came about, how ACT was really developed to begin with. Started off as SEO, and it turned into what everything revolves around marketing. You know, it's that message. You got to get that right. And when you start doing business, it doesn't matter what business you're in, listen. You have to listen to your market. The more customers you have, the more data you can get out of them. And they'll tell you what they want next. They really will. If you ask, they'll tell you. So anyway, like I said, I would really encourage you guys to go back and listen to the first 2 recordings that we did the last 2 weeks, because the first one, I spent an hour just going through all the pieces, how it all connects, how it all intertwines. And then last week we spent a good chunk of time in analysis, really figuring that out, because it's so important, the languaging. And you think that you got this down, but you probably really don't. And the market segmentation, getting that haven't heard that term before. The representation of your ideal customer. And you create this persona so you have someone to speak to. So when you create your content, whether it be your website, your headlines, your ads, your sales copy, doesn't matter what it is, you need to speak to a person, because it's a person that's going to buy it. If you speak generically to a market, here's something I share with everybody. The last time I checked, markets don't have credit cards. And make that purchase. Now, the other thing I see in the chat, you're asking where those recordings are. Inside, if you're in Alignable, if you go into the group, the Internet Dominator group, just look in the chat string. They'll be right in there. You'll see last week's, you'll see first, and then the first week is actually the next one down. And I put the recordings in there. I just found out the whole Alignable, the paid group thing in Alignable is brand new. It's a beta program. So it's brand new to everybody. It's new to me. It's new to Alignable. So we're just kind of figuring it out. And I've been telling them, I go, we need a resource section. And I didn't realize I already had one in there for me. So eventually I'll go into the resource section and I'll put all the stuff in there for you guys. All the recordings will go in there. If you haven't downloaded the program, I pinned that to the top. So the program is in there. You can download the whole thing, all the videos, the workbook, all that stuff. The workbook is in PDF and also in Word format. So if you don't have Word, the PDF, you can probably get that open. But anyway, I apologize if the audio is breaking up here. Are we okay? Is it still coming through okay? And sometimes on the
it comes and goes.
Okay, and sometimes when the boat swings around, I got the Starlink, so it's got to readjust. But anyway, I'm sitting here on the anchor in Newport, so every time the wind changes or the tide changes, I swing a different direction. So, but anyway, the program, I've got a question from a lot of people. Will it work for me? I'm in this niche. I'm in this category. I'm in this marketplace. Will it work for me? And the answer is yes, because and I saw a few questions also about it being a sales program. And it's really not. I mean, there's a lot of sales to it, but it's a communication program. And if you're not communicating, you're not selling. You know, if you're not communicating, if you're not speaking the right language, and a perfect example of this, when you use the wrong words, it could literally come down to one word. And it's because you didn't do your analysis. If you don't know the words to speak to your avatar, literally comes down to your analysis. But a perfect example of this is a realtor doesn't really refer to their clients as customers or clients. They refer to them as buyers and sellers. A chiropractor doesn't look for customers. He looks for patients. He's looking for patients. You know, all these people have different language. There's different words that they use. So it's important to really understand the language that they speak. And in some cases, if you're in particular industries, almost every industry has terms that is specific to that industry. Like, you know, when I said SEO, some of you guys probably didn't even know what that was. It's search engine optimization. So it's important you understand if they know the words and you're speaking them, you're speaking their language. But if you introduce a concept like SEO, for instance, I immediately, as soon as I said it, I immediately explained what it was, search engine optimization. If I didn't do that, you would feel like an outsider. You'd go, oh God, I don't know what he's talking about. You don't want to do that to your prospects. And when you explain, when you don't leave them out in the cold, it's like you've brought them into the fold and you're teaching them a secret language. And then all of a sudden you get this deeper bond, because now it's the us versus them. Because now you've brought them into the fold and now they understand. So they're part of an elite little community now. And everyone else on the outside, that's the them. So you've brought them into a little special community. So that's a really cool thing to do when you can speak their language. They'll really connect with you. You'll build trust and rapport, and they'll listen. They'll listen to you more. They'll be more engaged. And then your chances of getting them to purchase from you goes astronomically through the roof. Nobody's going to buy something if they don't like you. If they don't like you, you're done. And one of the best ways you can get someone to like you is to be like them. We all like similarity. When we see somebody that's like us, it's we feel comfortable. We like what we see. I hope you like what you see when you look in the mirror. But that's just human nature. So we gravitate toward that. And if you look at, this is all replicating like what a real person would do in the real world. I always say what works in the real world works online. You can digitize it. If you can see something that's working in the real world as far as the sales process, you can backwards engineer that, turn that into a marketing campaign, and virtually eliminate the salespeople, eliminate the sales job. Or if you're the one doing the selling, you can just eliminate that process. You'll get sales without doing selling. All you're doing is you're communicating. You're communicating the value of what you have that's going to deliver a desired outcome. Because most people have problems, whether they realize it or not, that we can solve. Our products or services can solve those problems for them. And when I say problem, it could be anything. It could be, you might not see it as a problem. Like, let's say a travel agent, perfect example. They say, my customers don't have problems. I'm sending them on vacations. They don't see that as a problem. And I say, well, you need to look at that. The problem is, what if they don't take the vacation? What if they get stressed out and burnt out, and then they can no longer function? And, because what happens when somebody goes on vacation, they come back and they're totally energized. Their productivity goes through the roof. And generally, if they're an entrepreneur, so does their income. I know entrepreneurs that would just unplug for like at least a couple weeks a year. And they would go, their favorite place might be Hawaii, might be Bora Bora, whatever. They would just totally unplug for like a week. And generally, before they did that, they had hit a point where it was burnout time. They were no longer productive. Their income was falling. And they'd get back from that vacation, and it's like now all of a sudden they've doubled their money. They're kicking butt. They're putting out new content, new products. They're creating opportunities that they didn't have before. And it was all because of that new energy. They got energized. So you can communicate that with somebody that is burnt out. Maybe they're not even thinking vacation, but when you show them the problem is their productivity is going down. They're on their way. They're in a nosedive, whether they know it or not. And if you can communicate that to them, you can save them from the crash and burn with something that's awesome, something that they would absolutely love. So it's all in how you package and purpose your messaging. And like I said, I don't care what it is that you offer, what market you're in. If you can't communicate the value, you're going to have a rough time. And if you can, your business is going to take off like a rocket ship. There's so many people that never got this, and then they finally get it, and all of a sudden it changes everything for them. They just take off, like a rocket ship. And it's really cool. It's really cool to have that happen. I get that same feeling every time I do a webinar. I'll do a webinar and I'll have 100, 200 people on it. I'll get a 20% conversion ratio. And it's like, I just spent an hour and I got 50, 100 sales, in an hour. And that just puts you on cloud 9. But think about it. I wouldn't have got those results if I didn't know how to communicate the value, if I didn't know who I was talking to. And a perfect example of this, the closer you can get your messaging, the better your results are going to be. And this is a perfect example. I spoke to 2,000 people at the Glacier Kennedy. This was in 2011. And I knew the audience was business owners. They were small business owners, but I didn't know what kind. They were a mix. It was 2,000 people. So my presentation, I kind of just, I didn't have a cut direction. I couldn't speak to them as though they were chiropractors or dentists or contractors or whatever. So I had to just kind of walk the middle of the road with it. It was the best I could do because of the situation. It was a mixed. Results. I literally walked out the back door with $140,000 in sales. So for an hour presentation, it was a great day. But the conversion ratio wasn't spectacular. It was 3%. So from that presentation, there was somebody in the audience that loved the presentation. American Dental Association. Next week. And they were looking at cutting the whole thing short so everybody could go home. So my hour presentation got cut down to 20 minutes. And 20 minutes after lunch, third day, they'd already spent all their money. It was the worst scenario I possibly could have got dropped into. But my conversion ratio, and all I did, I took the same presentation and the proof points that I used in the other presentation, I changed them out of the American Dental Association magazines. I grabbed proof points from their industry magazines. We talk about claim, proof, benefit. So my claims were backed up by the proof, literally out of their industry magazine. That was a change, and I changed the languaging from getting customers to getting patients. 2 little changes. That's all I changed. And I cut some of the presentation out, obviously, because I had 20 minutes, not 60 minutes. So it was even a shortened version of it. But because I did that, my conversion ratio was 43% to that room versus 3% to the other room. So if you think little things won't make a change, that's proof in the pudding. Then it makes a massive change. If you're speaking their language and you're talking to them with words they get, it makes a massive difference. So in this, that brings up a really good element of creating marketing for yourself, is all of you have different avatars. You're not gonna ever get you're probably never gonna get the opportunity to have it cut and dried so much as I had when I walked into just dentists. I knew who was in the room, I knew what they wanted, I knew why they wanted it, and I knew what I had was going to deliver that solution for them. So that part was like a match made in heaven. The bad part was all the circumstance around my time slot and everything like that. But still, 43%. And that was last day after they'd already spent their money on all the other speakers for the previous 3 days. So it definitely works. But anyway, I really encourage you guys to spend your time and analysis figuring out who you are talking to. And like I said a minute ago, you're going to have different audiences. So when you're creating, let's say you're creating your website, you can have buttons on the home page without getting into any pitches or anything like that. You can self-segment. You can allow your audience to self-segment. Like a good example of this is for a realtor. You would have two buttons on your site, buyer and seller. They have to self-select. They have to click one before you're going to speak to them. And the reason being, if they click on the buyer button, what do they want to hear? A buyer wants to hear how big a house they can get for how little money, right? That's the desired outcome of a buyer. A seller has the polar opposite. They want to get as much as they can for the house they have. So if you speak the wrong language, you not only don't attract your prospect, you repel them. So if you speak down the middle of that road and you speak buyer and seller, what you've done is you've just destroyed every chance you had of every prospect that comes to your website. So you need to self-segment so you can speak their language. So they click on, let's say they click on the buy button. Now they go to the buyer page. Now we have to do it again because not every buyer is the same. We might have a buyer that's, a single mom looking to get into a house and just put a roof over her kids' heads. She's not looking for anything elaborate. She might even be looking like for a condo, so you need to understand that. You need to show her what she can afford, what she's got in mind. You've also got the family, the growing family that's looking to upgrade. They're looking for a bigger house. Maybe they want to move to the country. If they're wanting to look for the move to the country, don't take them into the city and start showing them stuff in dense populated housing. You wouldn't do that, right? And then you've got the bachelor pad, the guy that wants to buy the bachelor pad. He doesn't want to hear about anything other than what he's interested in. So that self-segmentation process, so you can get people into your marketing campaigns. You might wind up with 10 different marketing campaigns, all selling virtually the same thing. But since you're selling it to different people, you literally have to change the conversation so it can take place effectively. So I know I ramble on about this stuff, but it's so important. And I do want to allow you guys to ask your questions. So if anybody's got questions, you can put your hand up. Don't feel like you're going to interrupt me. This call's supposed to be about, the support mentorship as you go through the program. So I know a lot of times that, people just want to hear me talk because they don't know what's important and they wanted to just have me tell them what's important. And I'm telling you right now, the analysis is nothing more important than that. That's the base foundation of your entire business. If you don't do that piece, if you don't get that, you're going to have a rough time. And, we talked, I use Sue as an example. Sue has done well in several different things that she's done in business, but Sue gets lucky. Sue has fallen into a couple of things where it's truly been everything just aligned for her. And that luck is not really repeatable. And I know one time I told her she was lucky, she kind of took offense to it because I didn't mean it that way. I was just pointing out that the reason that the business was working so well was everything just lined up for you. And the problem with that for her was she didn't know what it was that lined up. She just knew it was all working spectacularly. And that's why I called it luck. The problem with luck is you can't reproduce luck. So when she shifted gears and she moved to another business, that luck didn't follow her. She had a rough time. She couldn't reproduce her results. With this is where we take the luck out. We can reproduce the results every time. It's like baking a cake. You put the same ingredients in, you put the same temperature to it for the same amount of time, and you're going to get the same exact cake anytime you want it. So, all right, we got a question here. Is it Sheila?
Shella, close enough.
Okay. I got the sun in my eyes. I couldn't hardly see it. So, okay.
It's spelled differently. My question is, again, I'm a believer. I heard you speak. I love everything. I already started watching the videos. I just got it yesterday. My question is, as a solopreneur with no business background, this is my first product, my first everything. I have a health background. All the stuff that you're saying, would you recommend, yeah, you can do it by yourself. It'll just take you longer and figuring it out, or just being knowledgeable and then hiring, because now you're more knowledgeable, you know what you're asking for someone to do? Because I'm new to everything.
Absolutely. It depends on your budget. You know, if you've got the money to hire someone, that can accelerate your results. The thing is, like you just said, a key element, you have to have the knowledge to know what you want to hire for. Like a copywriter is a perfect example. Most people don't like writing copy. That's like if they had to if their business depended on them writing copy, they wouldn't get anywhere. So hiring a copywriter is a phenomenal thing to do in that situation. Some people love to write copy. They just do it like it just flows. So a copywriter is never going to be as good as you would be. If you put forth the effort and you really get this all correct, nobody's ever going to be able to communicate like you can. Now, your copywriter doesn't know your industry. They don't have your experience, your intelligence, all of that. They don't. It's in their copy is going to be only as good as what you give them. So if you're doing the analysis, like the workbook is perfect. If you handed a copywriter the workbook that was filled out, you know, as completely as possible, there's a lot of stuff in the workbook that doesn't work for every business. That was something that I talked about when I was talking about the workbook. Don't feel you have to fill it out completely, and don't feel that it's a complete thing of what you might need. You might need other fields or whatever. But if you handed a copywriter that base of knowledge, they could write you phenomenal copy. They could do it quickly, and it would probably be less expensive that way. And you could get a lower grade copywriter. A lower grade, lower paid copywriter could do probably a better job than if you took a top copywriter and didn't give them that information. So I'm all about outsourcing. I'm all about, like, if you don't have to do something, if somebody else is going to do it more effectively, more efficiently, it's all about letting them do it. Like, the last thing I'm going to do is my taxes, right? It's not a good use of my time.
So my quick follow-up is, if I can, because you're right, I've hired marketing people, didn't know what I was hiring, didn't know what I needed, therefore then they delivered and it wasn't what I needed, and sales didn't follow, and, you know, rinse and repeat is what I've done. So to me, your program is very attractive to me because it's going to give me the knowledge that I need in order to find what I need. But you have a ballpark of how much a company that can do not only what you just said about the copyright, but take that copyright and figure out how it needs to be used on social media, how it needs to be used for SEO, how it needs to be used on the website, how it needs to be used on all the different avenues that your messaging needs to be on. Do you have a ballpark of what that might be? And when you said depends on your budget, I have no budget, which means I would create a budget.
Yeah. I don't really have a number in mind for you. I know if you found somebody that could do all of that, it would be very expensive. And there's a lot of people that say they can do that and they can't, and they're still very expensive.
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of people that have spent upwards of $20,000 to $50,000 on people that say they can do this for them, and it doesn't work.
Right.
And when you look at it and you go back to the basics, it's because of the foundation. They didn't give them what the person needed to even do it. So they're only as good as what you give them. So that's why it is so important. I said this is a skill set that will last you a lifetime. figuring this out. And the other skill set too, and I talked about this a couple of times in the last couple of videos. I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but I spent some time on being able to identify opportunities, especially if you're new like you are. You might think you've got something that is, just awesome, and it might wind up that maybe the market isn't going to sustain the sales efforts. It might not be a big enough marketplace. There's a lot of things. Like, the cool part about the ACT program is it really is a foundational business program. When you look at the numbers in the beginning of analysis, so I talk about the freedom formula. That's where I think that's where I talked about that, was in the freedom formula. That's where you look at, what kind of lifestyle do you want? How much is it going to cost? And then you divide that into the profit of each unit you're going to move. And you know how many you have to move. Now we have to build a marketing campaign that's going to move those units. And that turns that dream lifestyle into a reality real quick. But the thing is, when you do the math, you might say, oh my God, I can't move that many units. I might have picked the wrong opportunity to live that lifestyle. So don't get like hooked in and set that, hey, I made this decision I was going to do this, and I'm going to do it if it kills me or not. Don't let it kill you. In business, as a sole entrepreneur, you have both a gift and a curse. The gift is you're very nimble and you can change it in moment's notice and do whatever you want. The curse is you might not. You might be attached to, this is another thing that, this isn't me saying it. I'm just the bearer of bad news. Forbes magazine has done studies on this, and they say 18 months in a new business venture, 80% are going to fail, given 18 months. So most business ideas never go off the ground. And the thing is, it took the person 18 months to accept the failure and throw in the towel. For me, I'll look at it, I'll line it up with the goggles that I now wear from knowing what I know, and I'll fail that thing in 30 seconds without spending a dime on it. Because I just look, I mean, I can forecast, I can like see the future. If I'm looking for a profitable market segment and it doesn't have the three things that I'm looking for, if I can't check all three boxes, that failed. 30 seconds. I'm on to a new business. And they say you're going to fail so many times before you hit a success. Well, I don't want to spend 18 months in one of those figures. I'd rather do it like right now. Let's get on to the next one. Get on to the next one. Get on to the next one. The faster you fail, the faster you'll find success. So, I talk about the curse of not giving up. Tony Robbins, he's looked at data further out than 18 months. He went out 10 years, and he said 96% will fail in 10 years. I'm just like, oh my God, I would not want to spend 10 years to fail. That would be a horrible situation. So, all right, we got Orland up. You're muted out there.
Yes. Sorry.
No
Thank you,
problem.
John. Thank you for the opportunity to learn this very important skill from you.
Sure.
And I jumped into the program immediately when I learned about it, and I started to review the information, the videos. I think one important thing you said that resonated with me as a business owner is that the analysis part of the act, the business owner should do that him or herself, because
Yes.
you know your business more than anyone. So I immediately started to do that. However, what I found that in from your videos, that some of the videos, they're dated, and I could not follow along with the new Facebook interface and all
Uh,
that. And I understand that, and I try to work around that. So having said that, I was hoping that these sessions would be more workbook, work example type sessions where we can now come here and says, okay, let's pick who is it, Martin or somebody, and says, what are you doing in your analysis? Let's see you do your analysis. Or Sam, let's see you do your analysis. So we now take that and apply it to whatever new interfaces. And I can go back and do my homework and do my analysis and come next week and say, here, I have this problem. I couldn't get this right. And so move on.
sure.
So
Yeah.
tell me how you feel about that.
Sure. No, that's actually what the call is for. This is for like wherever you are. Everybody's going to be at like different stages, different places. And one of the things that we do reviews. Like if you've got, let's say you're doing a landing page, or you're doing an offer, or you're doing a lead magnet, and we can absolutely review that. Let's say you're in analysis and you want to see if you're doing it right. We can absolutely review that. This call is open to anything you need help with. And as far as like addressing the, what you had pointed out, the problem with teaching software, like I know I did one of the lessons about the Facebook audiences and all that. It's like every time you do a video on a software, they change the interface. I've noticed they do that with Google, all of those. But another place too that you can get help with your analysis, there's a couple of things I'll share with you here. One of them is public libraries. And the librarians in most public libraries are really helpful. And you can go in there and you can tell them, hey, I'm trying to research this marketplace. I'm trying to find out, how many people are in this, what they want, all this kind of stuff, the demographics, the psychographics. And they're amazing people, and they are research experts. They could probably point you to stuff that you may never find online. That's one resource. The other thing too, a lot of times we are our own avatar. And what I mean by that is a lot of times when you have a product that you're offering, you develop the product possibly for yourself. Like you might have had a problem you couldn't find a solution to, so you just solved it yourself, and now you're sharing that and getting paid for it. So if that's the case, you could potentially be your own avatar. The only caveat to that, if you wind up being your own avatar, you can't go on the information of where you are today, because you don't have the problem anymore. Now you're the expert. So you have to kind of go back in time to when you weren't the expert and you had the problem, and what were you facing? What were you hearing? What were you feeling? And then you'll know how to speak. But you can't do it from who you are today. You have to go back and walk in your shoes when you were the avatar, because the avatar might have a previous you. So
Okay.
there's so much stuff about analysis that a lot of it, there's no tools in many cases that's going to tell you the stuff. In many cases, it's going to be talking to people, understand who you are, or going back to yourself of where you were. Does that make sense?
It does. I was just wondering if you would allow me to share my screen and show you what I have been doing and hopefully some of the other members can benefit from that.
Sure.
And I wouldn't be long.
Hold on 1 sec. Let me address Sam. She's got her question up, and then I'll come right back to you.
Okay.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. My question is, like, I haven't opened the workbook yet. I just joined the other day and I tried to get onto a couple videos, and then I was like, oh, this call. So anyway, I apologize.
No.
Is it best to do like the workbook before we come on these calls so that we're more up to date? Or
The workbook is really there just as a guideline for you. What I would do is I would go through like the videos from the actual program. I would go through and listen to the videos just with the intent of soaking it in. Don't worry about making notes. Don't worry about, hey, I'm trying to implement this right now. Just go through with the intent of just soaking it in, run it through. And that will, then you'll come out the other end with kind of a whole encompassing idea of what this all is.
okay.
Then when you're actually ready to do a marketing campaign, that's where the workbook's going to come in. That's where, as you work through the thing, the workbook's just a place for you to put your notes. It's just an elaborate notepad. It's just a guideline. And there's a lot of stuff in the workbook that may or may not apply to your particular industry. There may be stuff that's not in there that you want to add in. So don't take the workbook as a gospel. It's just a guideline. So it's not like we're going through these calls, you know, and addressing a specific piece in the workbook at any given time. But the workbook kind of goes along with the whole program, and it gives you a really, really cool tool to just put everything down, because you always go back and you reference that stuff. When you move into creation, you're going to be pulling all that stuff out of your analysis. Like for me, I personally don't use the workbook. I just somehow I have it in my head. You know, once I learn it, I've got it, I take it forward, I use it. But a lot of people are different. A lot of people, you know, bulleted notes, stuff that reminds them, you know, all that stuff. I've just probably been doing it for so long that it's just a skill, a layered skill set that I have at this point. But I did create the workbook because Sue and everyone else that was going through this when they were first learning it, they're like, no, we're not like you. They're like, we don't have all those layers of expertise and knowledge, you know, that I had over years that I didn't know was there. So the workbook, I think, is probably going to make it a lot easier for you guys. At least I hope it does. So anything else? Or was that pretty much it?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so back to Orlin. Go ahead and share your screen. Let's see what you got going here.
Okay, I'll try to be very concise here. So I'm following along doing the analysis. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we're looking at the insights there.
Right. So I went to potential audience, and just tell me if I'm doing this right. So I'm in Texas, and that's my location. I know in the video you said start with the whole of United States, but I just put.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
There's some businesses that are localized, so that's perfectly fine. But you see what I notice here, right out of the gate, I notice that the majority is female. So
right.
That's something. Now, here's where analysis, you've got data, like you're looking at data here, but then you've got intuition and you've got your own knowledge. Like you might see, maybe this is the majority women, but the person that actually makes the purchase is the man. And I don't know that that's true. I'm just throwing out some examples of sometimes you can't take the data at face value. You have to interpret it. So anytime you're in analysis and you're getting third-party data, it's still up to you to interpret the data into how that is meaningful to you. So
Okay.
but where you're getting it, any data that you can get in front of you is good analysis. You just have to make sure you're interpreting. But like, let's say, you know, the female audience here is predominant. Let's just say they are the buyers. So you would be more effective creating a marketing campaign that spoke to the females than if you tried to go down the middle or if you tried to create two full campaigns. You always just go where the biggest opportunity is first and start making your money there. And then you might decide, hey, this is awesome. I've made a ton of money from this group of women. And now I want to take what I've got. I figured it out. I've got the formula to sell this audience. And now you take that, just like what I did at Glazier Kennedy, and you change a little bit of languaging. And now you make a version of it for the men. But if you try and do them both at the same time, it's too overwhelming. It's going to eat you up, and you probably never finish one.
Okay, thank you for that insight. I'll skip the age. I just put in my range and all genders, but the interests here, you want to put more than one pieces. Is that correct? I have first-time home buyers as my own here, okay? Yeah. Which is a real estate.
Okay.
And I noticed also.
Start with one and then switch them out, because sometimes if you put more than one, it'll reduce your results down too far. So run the search for one and then change it to another one and keep seeing what comes up.
Okay. And why is this grayed out, although I filled in all of these here and I can't create the audience, like I can't click on this? You have any?
It might be either you're not logged into a valid ad account, or it could also be that the audience is just too small for it. Which I don't think
okay.
1 million to 1.2, I don't think that's the problem.
Okay. So I just want to stop here, and I don't want to take up more of the group's time, but I hope that was helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. But anytime, remember, in analysis, it's data. You're collecting data, whether the data comes out of your head or it comes out of your prospects and speaking to them, or it comes out of data sources like we just looked at. It's still your job to interpret the data. And I don't know of any tool that's going to do that for you. That's going to come down to, you know, your expertise in this marketplace to determine that. So that's where your personal magic comes into the fold. So,
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Joan, I see your hand up. How you doing?
Hey, John. Great to see you. Great to be with you 3 times this week and one more this evening. I'm looking forward to it. This is great. I've been mulling over something before we even came on here today. This is my first time in the group session because I signed up this week. And I'd already thought of something that now with some of this conversation, I put it out there. I've now connected with a couple of people. I'm thinking that having a partner for me would be so helpful. Not necessarily somebody that knows what I do or works with me or anything, but just that I could, it's also digesting this information, and we would be able to boil it down together, as well as be accountable for working through the steps that we need to work through. So I was gonna just put it out to the group as a whole. I'm gonna see what happens with the couple of people I connected with, but maybe that would be helpful for others too.
Yeah, just like an accountability partner.
Accountability, collaborate, you know, just, yeah. And even, I think almost, you might have some thoughts on this. It might be more helpful for it to be someone that is totally in a different, it has nothing to do with
Sure.
relating to what each of our businesses are. It's more to just,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, seeing how you're working through the process.
It's almost a mastermind.
You're unstable again, network wise.
It's almost always a good thing. So I think that's a great idea.
Cool. Well, I hope it helps. I know I benefit from, of course, what you're telling us, but yours is for everybody, and it would be great to hear someone, you know, get the one-on-one feedback.
Yeah, like I had said earlier, you know, we can do reviews on any stuff, you know, at any point in here. I'm happy to do that. That's been doing that for years.
Well, I know you are. I don't know how much time we can each get with you, but hopefully we'll be with you for a while and keep learning from you.
Oh,
The sound isn't good, John. We can't hear you. It's sad.
and next, looks like you're muted there, Shanda.
Yeah, I can't really hear you.
Oh, that's a bummer. I know we're spinning around here a bunch because of the wind, so it's probably my Starlink not staying connected to the satellite.
You
So
can
I
ask your question.
don't know how well y'all, I mean, can you hear me okay, Joan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna bounce off what, is it Joan?
Yeah, Joan.
Okay, Joan said, but I think too, when we, like, if we do break out into groups, it would be nice to be in synergy groups, because to me, being health and wellness, I know for me personally, I would like to collaborate with other health and wellness people. So
Okay.
if they're in like fitness or, you know, skincare, all those chiropractic, all those industries, that I think, you know, it's nice to say, okay, well, what's working, you know, what's working for you? Who are your ideal clients? Who's, you know, who have you figured out your avatar? I mean, those types of things I think would really benefit us. Same thing with like the home industry or housing industry, having people who are, you know, roofing, realtors, plumbers, painting, all those different, you know, air conditioning would be like in a group. But to me, synergy groups have had a lot of benefit before in the past. And it's a good way to just bounce ideas off of one another using this method.
Yeah, yeah. What I would do, since you guys all have access to the chat, what you could do is put in the chat, like what industry you're in. And if anybody is in a similar industry and they want to pair up and work with you on it, that's
okay.
Totally.
Okay.
It's all about that. Whatever would be beneficial, I'm all for.
Okay. Sounds good.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody else got questions? Go ahead and put your hand up or just come on out. Okay. But yeah, I think that that's a good idea. You know, partnering up, accountability is huge for a lot of people. You know, having a partner that you can check in with and keep the ball rolling, because it's so easy. There's so many distractions in the world that will just stall our businesses out. It's a great thing, you know, to have somebody there to just help push you along. You know, I do it with these calls. You know, I've been doing this since 2010, so I've been here 12 years, like just helping everybody move down the rail. So Anyway, all right. Anybody else got anything?
Hey, can you hear me? Can't hear John. I think his Starlink dropped out again.
Oh,
I'm really thinking he's got a really bad connection today.
yeah, it's swinging around. So, am I still out?
No, you're back now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. You guys never drop out, so you can keep talking. I haven't missed it.
Apologies, John. I got on the call today. It sounds like you got some new people here. Did you finally get the Invisalign or whatever that was going? We got some new friends, new people here.
Alignable. Yeah, Alignable. I've been doing the meetup groups in Alignable, and they're loving the ACT program, so that's cool. So the group is growing rapidly.
Well, they should love it. It's the basis of everything. It's missing a little bit of mindset stuff, which would be nice, but that's available elsewhere.
Well, actually, 2 weeks ago, I went pretty hard on that. When I
was going to say, Richard, I don't know if you were here that week, but yeah, 2 weeks ago, he hit pretty hard on mindset.
I need to go back and listen to that. I had a doctor's appointment that day. I couldn't hear, so.
Yeah, it wasn't last week, but the week before. That was a good call. So go ahead.
Not here, John. Try again.
Question there. So, okay to proceed. Am I really offline here?
You're back now.
You come in and out, John. I sent text you. I think probably about half of what you're coming through, maybe more than that. About 70% we catch. There's about 30% we miss.
Oh, that's a bummer. Normally I would be doing it from out here, but
yeah, I was about to say in your skip joint, for all you guys new people, trust me, this is a rarity. This hardly ever happens. Really, he usually has a good connection. I'm just, I was wondering what was going on at the marina today.
Yeah, I'm in Newport swinging around on an anchor. So we're doing the holiday parades down here. So a lot of people are coming down to join us tonight. So I'm just sitting here waiting.
Yeah, this is the drawbacks of leaving the life of the rich and famous, John. Well, you'll just have to tolerate it.
We'll have to do, but I promise we won't do this every week. All right, so go ahead, Richard. What was your question?
Oh, I was just touching base because it sounded like we had a lot of new folks here, and I was just wondering if that Alignable thing had kicked in or whatever. So it's welcome to the group, because I've been on this call, as you know, since you started it, and here almost every week, and it's very, very valuable. You guys made a good decision getting on board.
Yeah, it's also, it's like it never ends. It's like you might hear something today that you heard a year ago, but now because of where you are today, it means it has more meaning to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the whole process never ends in that way. You're always listening. We call it, you're always listening with new ears, because your ears are connected to a brain now that knows more than it did a week ago or a day ago if you're doing it right. And all of a sudden, something that didn't quite come together will finally come together. And I found that true as well here. I mean, it's just the way the world works. Hey, Tim, looks good.
And believe it or not, I keep learning this stuff too. Every time I teach this, it just absorbs into me at a deeper level as well. So I'm probably bringing stuff forward, making it clearer, all the time. I'm learning more how to communicate this. So it's an ongoing process. So, Joan, did you have another question?
I had more of a comment from what the two of you were just saying. I said it seemed to me from the beginning it would be a not only a process, but something that we would continually be able to review and revise as we learn more and as things change in the world and around us, and you know, all the ways that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had people with me like Richard for over 10 years, and it's amazing because their businesses change, their opportunities change, and just keeping it all moving forward.
And you may
It's
go
like
back and revise your ideal avatar, or your, you know, any part of that analysis could be updated and revised.
Yeah, absolutely. Things change, and that's the beauty of being a solopreneur, is you're so nimble. You have the ability to just change at a drop of a hat, moment's notice. And I've done really well at that. I've changed, I can't tell you how many directions I've changed and times I've turned and twisted, and always for the better. So, okay, Tommy, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. We saw that the one man, I don't remember his name, he showed the meta business, like the Facebook business, you know,
Yeah.
analytic tool. What kind of shortcuts do you suggest that we could use to help us out with the data, you know, to do our data research and stuff? Anything that would help us so we don't have to.
It really just kind of depends. Google is a massive source of data. To get to use the Google tools now, though, you have to create an ad account.
Mm-hmm.
When you create the ad account, it's no problem. You have to put a credit card in. Just make sure they walk you through in the process of setting the account up. They walk you through actually creating an ad. You have to make sure that before you leave that, you pause that ad account. Otherwise, they start charging you money. And I think Richard encountered this. You have to make certain that ad campaign is paused. And then once you're in there, then you have access to all of their research tools. So you can look up, you know, markets, market sizes, household incomes, all that kind of stuff. Because that's important to know, you know, who you're shooting at, and also to know, you know, the demographics. Like in his case, it showed the market was predominantly women. That doesn't mean they're the buyers. So your interpretation of the data is really critical. Like I've helped out some people that were in drug rehab, and they had it so wrong. It was crazy. They were creating the messaging for the person that was going to go into the rehab. That wasn't the customer. That wasn't the person that was paying the bill. It was grandma wants to send the grandson through. She's the one making the purchase. So they weren't selling to her. They weren't talking to her. They didn't even acknowledge her. I'm like, that's like speaking to a market that doesn't have a credit card. You know, the person that's got the problem, they're in pain. They're not going to buy anything. They don't have any money. Their life is destroyed. It's the person that loves them that's going to come in, it's going to help them. That's your customer. So interpretation of that data is critical. Knowing who you're speaking to and know what they want, why they want it.
How would we make that assumption?
What's that?
How would we make that assumption? Like, how would we be able to assume, you know, based on the data, showing the data, how would we assume who the buyer is actually?
Well, to me, that would be intuitive. To you, it would be looking at who's making the purchase, like who's like in that case, it's obvious. The person that's got the problem isn't the one that's paying the bill.
Yeah, for the rehab, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in most cases, they don't even want it. You know, that's the reality. When we actually got into it, that was the reality. Yeah. It's very sad. It's a very sad industry. But as far as for marketing and sales, the point there is if you want to sell that, you need to figure out who is the person that's going to buy it. and why do they want it, and be able to communicate with them. So, and it's different in every market, but it's really easy to miss the mark if you're not really thinking it through. The whole thing is, this is a thinking game. You have to really use what's between your ears. And there's, like I said earlier, there's no tool that's going to hand you all this on a silver platter. It says, this is your customer, this is what they want, this is where they live. You know, it's kind of a thought process game. You know, you take the data that's in front of you and you interpret that, and you make some, you know, intelligent assumptions, which there's no way you could make an intelligent assumption that the person that needs drug rehab is the person by yourself. There's nothing that would indicate that. So if you were creating a marketing campaign around that, it would tell me you just hadn't done the analysis and you hadn't thought this through. So it's, you know, a lot of it's just going to come down to common sense, and in many cases it's going to come down to common sense. So
educated guessing and testing.
Yeah, that's about it. They call it swag. You guys ever heard of swag? That's a scientific wild ass guess. I heard that many years ago. But it's based on something. It's based on data. You know, the data might just be you thinking it through. The data might be from a publication. The data might be from a data source like Google or Facebook ads, or, you know, it's something like that. But it's really important that you interpret the data. The data without interpretation is worthless. It's not worth the paper it's printed on. It's your intellect of that decoding of what that means. Yeah, so you have to decipher it, and that can be difficult. And that's something like this call is invaluable for that. Because if you go and you get the data and you bring it on here and you say, hey, what do you think of this? Then, you know, we can help you decipher it. Help you interpret, what does this mean? That's the cool thing about this call. It's literally open to anything you guys need. You know, wherever you're at, I will do my best to help you through it. All right, anybody else here?
So where do you recommend we start with ACT? I know that in the download file that you gave us, it almost seems like it's out of order. Is the workbook more in order?
The workbook is in order. As far as the files, the way I put them in folders for you. So like the A folder, then they should be numbered. They should be in numbered order. Are they not in numbered order?
Let me double check here.
I'm pretty sure they're in numbered order of how they go.
So once you open the folder, they're in numbered order, but the folders are not in numbered order.
Okay, gotcha. The only one that I believe that's out of order is the freedom formula. It really is number 1.
Okay, so I'll rename that 1.
Yes.
And then the other ones are traffic creation and analysis. I think that's in reverse order.
Okay. Usually they're sorted alphabetically. So the ACT actually comes in line if you alphabetically sort them.
Okay, so
like I said, the only one that's out of order in the alphabetical would be the freedom formula. And that's the one that Richard had mentioned about mindset that he thought we weren't touching on. freedom form is all about mindset. And if you go back and you look at the first week's recording that we did 2 weeks ago, that one is just par on to the freedom formula. So that's a good place to start. Those first 2 recording, first 2 week sessions that you probably missed,
Right.
That'll put you in really good shape as having a base of this. But how to go through the program, like I said earlier, I would recommend that you just kind of go through in order, not with the intent of doing anything, but just with the intent of soaking it in.
Okay.
And then you'll have a different base knowledge of the whole program. And then when you're actually ready to do a marketing campaign, then you can pull up the workbook and go back and work through it again in order, but you'll be filling out the workbook. When you move into creation, you'll have all that right at your fingertips. And that makes it so much easier. It's so much easier when you've already done the thought process and now you're just turning it into a message.
Right. Thank you.
If you're trying to create, you're trying to write copy, you don't have all that, or you haven't even thought about it, it's impossible to get it right. Unless you're really lucky. All right. Who else do we have? Any other questions here before we tie it up for today? And just so you guys know, I stay on these generally. If I don't have anything like backed up to it, I'll be here as long as it takes to get everybody fixed up. But all right. Well, that said, it looks like there's no more questions, and we got another piece chewed through here. So we're on here every week, Thursday at 11. So you guys pop in here and tell me where you're at and what you're stuck on, or thoughts, any of that stuff. So, all right, guys, well, have a great day. I'm just sitting here on anchor waiting for my next cruise to take place.
Thank you, John. Great to see the
thank you, John.
newbies.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
John.
awesome. Awesome new group coming in.
Enjoy the viewing tonight and tomorrow night. Wish I was there.
Thank you.
Absolutely, you got to get out here.
Anybody in the LA Orange County area?
Now she's in Texas, so
Yeah.
a little bit of a drive. for her.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought there might be others on there that weren't aware.
Where you anchored, John?
I'm in Newport, sitting right in Newport Beach.
Newport.
Orange
it's about-
County.
Oh,
Okay, John, I gotta ask, where in Newport? I grew up there.
Well, I am between, I'm right off of Lido Island's right out my window here. So I got Lido Island out this window and the peninsula out that window. So I'm pretty much right dead center in the harbor.
Yeah, that you are. That's right, where everybody will come. You'll be able to see the parade 5 times as it comes by if you're right there in the middle.
Yeah, if I didn't have to go pick people up, I could just sit here right on the anchor.
We could break out the dinghy.
Yeah, that's true. We could send that in and out. I'd have to go in quite a few times for our group tonight. We got probably about 40 people.
Are you serious? 40?
Yeah, it'd be an
For
awesome group.
tonight?
Yeah,
Oh, good. It went up a lot then.
yeah, it'll be cool.
Well, I'll see you. I'll be leaving here in another hour and a half. I'll be hitting the road to get down there to
Oh.
find parking.
All right.
Exactly.
Did you get the message that we had to move to the dock on 15th Street?
No.
Okay, so the dock I was meaning to pick you guys up at, they can't put me on there because there's parade boats that are stuck there. So it's just the next dock down. You were at 16th Street, now we're at 15th Street. But it's
15.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you can still park at the 16th Street because that's where the public parking is. And
Oh.
it's maybe 50 yards. That's not very
And
far.
it's near. It's still near the American Legion Post 291.
Yes, it's actually just on the other side of it now. So 16th Street was on one side, The 15th Street is just on the other side of it.
Okay. I'll
So
check
it's
for the
easy.
latest map.
Well, have fun, everyone. It's nice to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
John.
Great
Bye-bye.
interaction. Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right. Well, we'll see some of you tonight, and the rest we'll see next week. So have a great
Okay.
week, and we will see you then.
Looking
All the
forward to it.
short is going ashore. Thank you.